Ramesh Majumdar, a resident of West Bengal, was a dedicated government employee working for the railways. In the late 1980s, he was stationed in Rewari, Haryana, nearly 1,500 kilometers away from his ancestral home. His life was divided between his duty and the longing for his family. His wife and two young sons, Sarthak, 4, and his younger brother, 2. In 1987, Ramesh received a transfer to Delhi. Seeing this as an opportunity for a better life and better schooling for his sons, he decided to bring his family from the village to the capital. This decision, however, would lead them into a nightmare that would haunt them for decades. This story was shared with us by Sarthak, who requested anonymity. Thus, names have been changed to respect his privacy. The house in Gandhinagar. Finding a home in Delhi was no easy task, but Ramesh eventually found a room in the Gandhinagar area. It was small, but the price was remarkably low, a major draw for a practical man like Ramesh. Another advantage was that Sarthak's aunt lived in the very next street. The layout of the house was peculiar. Upon entering the main gate, there was a large open courtyard where the elderly landlord had placed several cots. Massive jamun and mango trees cast long, heavy shadows over the area. Past the trees, on the left, was the landlord's quarters. Opposite that, on the right, was a room belonging to the landlord's son who worked in the U.S. That room was almost always locked. To reach Ramesh's rented space, one had to climb a set of stairs to a corridor on the first floor. There were 2 rooms in the corridor. One was permanently locked, and Ramesh had rented the other. The room served as a bedroom and kitchen combined, while the bathroom was located downstairs, requiring a trek through the courtyard every time. Ramesh's sister had warned him, "We've heard strange things about that room. Look elsewhere." But Ramesh, driven by logic and the low rent, ignored her. He paid a 2-month advance and moved his family in. The first signs, the trouble began almost immediately. Sarthak's mother felt a heavy, uneasy energy from the moment they crossed the threshold. She dismissed it as the stress of the move. On the 5th day, Ramesh had to travel back to Rewari for paperwork, leaving his wife alone with the children. Feeling isolated, she took the boys to their aunt's house for the day. She returned at 7 p.m. to prepare dinner. While cooking near the open door, she saw a shadow flicker across the curtain. It looked like someone was walking down the corridor. She rushed out, convinced someone had entered the adjacent locked room. But when she checked, the lock was still firmly in place. When Ramesh returned at 11 p.m., he laughed off her concerns. "You're just imagining things," he said. But that night, Sarthak's mother didn't sleep a wink. She could hear the distinct sound of slow, heavy footsteps pacing the corridor outside their door. The how in the room? The next morning, while Ramesh was at work, Sarthak's mother went downstairs to wash clothes, leaving 4-year-old Sarthak to watch over his sleeping brother. Suddenly, Sarthak came running downstairs, screaming in terror. His mother rushed back up and found her 2-year-old son sitting on the bed, laughing and babbling at the empty air. It looked exactly as if someone was sitting right in front of him, playing. Sarthak, trembling, kept talking about the how, a term his mother used back in Bengal to scare him into eating. He claimed the how was in the room. Terrified, she fled to her aunt's house. Her aunt confirmed her fears. "I told Ramesh not to stay there. That room stays vacant because no one can last more than a few days. You only got it cheap because it's cursed." The window in the alley. Despite the escalating fear, Ramesh insisted they stay to save the advance money. One afternoon, Sarthak's mother was napping under a blanket when she felt a hand gently but firmly pull the sheet away from her. She sat up with a start, but the room was empty. Later that evening, while preparing dinner, a violent knocking erupted from the window that faced the narrow back alley. She froze. They were on the first floor. There was no ledge, no balcony, and no way for a human to knock on that window from the outside. Then, a low, guttural growl vibrated through the glass, a sound of pure, concentrated rage. She grabbed the children and ran. Sarthak was hysterical, crying, "Mom, he's coming. He will take us away." The landlords tried to gaslight her, claiming the child must have seen a cat, but Sarthak's mother had had enough. The final confrontation, the breaking point, came on a Sunday. Ramesh was downstairs bathing when Sarthak suddenly flew off the bed as if shoved by an invisible force. "Mom, why did you push me?" he wailed. As his mother tried to comfort him, a woman's voice whispered directly into her ear, "Get out of here or I'll kill everyone." In a panic, she grabbed Sarthak and bolted for the stairs. Midway down, she felt a powerful shove against her back. She tumbled down the stairs, her body bruising as she tried to shield Sarthak. Ramesh ran out to find Sarthak bleeding from a head wound. Even then, he blamed his wife's, quote, clumsiness. That evening, Ramesh sat alone in the room to write a letter to his parents. Suddenly, the knocking on the window returned. He grabbed a stick and yelled, "Go away!" "I'll call the police." The knocking stopped. A strange, suffocating heaviness filled the air. Ramesh felt a gaze so intense it felt physical. He pulled back the window curtain. There, floating in mid-air outside the first-floor window, was a girl. Her eyes were wide and bulging, her hair disheveled, and her face distorted with malice. She stared directly into his eyes and hissed, "Do you want to get out alive, or should I kill everyone?" Ramesh didn't say a word. He dropped his pen, ran out of the room, locked it, and didn't stop running until he reached his sister's house. The dark secret. The family moved their belongings out the very next morning. They eventually learned the truth from the neighbors. The landlord had a daughter, 22 or 23 years old, who had lived in the adjacent locked room. She had been in love, but her parents' refusal and their ego-driven cruelty led her to commit suicide in that very room. Out of spite and anger, her parents hadn't even performed her last rites properly, leaving her spirit bound to the house in a state of perpetual rage. They also learned of a boy from a previous family who had been flying a kite on the roof. Before he died from his fall, he told doctors that a woman had pushed him from the front. Conclusion: Ramesh Majumdar passed away years ago, and Sarthak shared this story as a tribute to the terror his family survived. Some houses are built of bricks and mortar, but others are built of unresolved pain and lingering shadows. In Gandhinagar, the silence is never truly silent. Take care of yourselves, and Har Har Mahadev. Would you like me to find more historical accounts of haunted locations in Delhi from the 1980s? Or should we move on to another story from Sarthak's collection?